Hi, I'm John Silve, and this is Art and Design. Today, my guest is ML Liebler. ML, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, it's great to be here, John. Really.
How did you get into poetry?
Oh, John. Let's see. I just finished my memoir, or at least the draft of it, and ready to turn it in. So all of this stuff is fresh in my mind at any rate. I'm the least likely person to be involved in poetry in particular, or anything intellectual or artistic. I come from a working class family. I was raised by my grandparents and in St. Clair Shores. And when I was in the second grade, this is my memory, I remember scribbling things in the margins of books and sometimes getting in trouble for that. I remember, and I can't explain what it was. It was just, doodling, feelings, things like that. They were not profound by any, I was 7. So, I did that. And when I got in the 5th grade, we were doing, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. And when I saw that on the page, I just thought, oh, there's a lot of white space around this. What I'm doing has a lot of white space around it. I guess this is poetry. And from that point, I did pursue it then and knew, focused on it and still wasn't any good, but kept doing it. And it just kind of, I grew into it. My grandparents were not intellectuals. My grandfather worked on the line at Dodge, Maine. And retired from there. He was part of the 38 sit-down strike. He wasn't an activist by any stretch, but he definitely was a UAW guy. And I just kept pursuing it. When I got into high school, junior high, I thought, well, I guess I'm a poet. So I could, even if I said I wasn't, I had to keep doing it. So that's kind of how it started. And then as I went through junior high, high school, it got a little bit more sophisticated. And when I got into college, I was lucky to study with Lawrence Pike, who was at Macomb College South campus, which is where I started out. And they had a great group of artists there in all areas. They had, when we look back on that period, where we started the Ridgeway Artist Collective and the Ridgeway Press, which I've been doing. Next year will be 50 years we've been doing that.
And that started at Macomb?
It started at Macomb, yeah. At Macomb at that time, there were a number of teachers who were really first rate, like in the art world.
Yeah, David Barr and
and Jim Pallas.
Yeah,
they still are. Well, David's gone, but
John's gone. But yeah, Jim is still posting lots of interesting things.
Yeah, he's great. We talked to him because the Ridgeway people started during COVID meeting on Zoom. First we were meeting every Saturday during the beginning of COVID. Now we do it every 2 weeks. We just did it last night. And Jim joins us sometimes from out in Portland, in Oregon there where he is. But those guys were there and they brought in like John Cage, Ant Farm, just a number of...
Okay, just for reference, this is early 70s we're talking about.
Yes, it is.
And those guys had all just got their jobs there.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are still working in some of the community college. It was the best gig in the world. But at the same time, like you're saying, John Cage came there.
Oh, yeah.
Martin
Ginsberg
Purrier had a big sculpture on campus. Martin Purrier, he did the Venice Biennial 3 years ago.
Wow.
This is the kind of stuff that was coming to Macomb because of them.
Well, I'm glad you know that, because a lot of people don't. Even back then it was called 12 Mile High.
Oh, yeah.
But none of us had been to college.
It was high school for ashtrays. That's how I...
Yeah, that's right. Did you go there too? Or?
I did.
Oh, okay.
So
on 12 Mile?
Went to 12 and Center campus.
Okay.
Hey, I went to 12 and Center, ML.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't just stuck where you were.
Yeah, I know.
I was over the high class.
You were. Yeah, we never went out there much. Get hay fever going out there. at any rate,
Was that a dig?
yeah, it was a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the South Campus was, I mean, they just were filled with great English teachers and artists and film. Phil Barron was the film guy. And in fact, one little side note with that is he got a copy of the film that eventually won the Academy Award for Best Documentary, Hearts and Minds on Vietnam. And we showed it there before, you know.
What year was that?
That had to be like, I'm thinking like 73, maybe,
Wow.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Tumultuous at that time, too.
yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, totally. And then the Jim Jacobs was the political science guy. And, you know, I was very active in the anti-war movement, as was he. And a lot of stuff started at Macomb. Even when I was in high school, I'd drive over to Macomb for these marches on the tank arsenal and stuff like that. And that brings up memories of things, too.
Does.
But then he became the president. And it was, you know, he's not now. He retired because he had already been there 40 years, I think, at that point. And they named him president, and he called me up. He said, "Hey, ML, I'm president. Let's have poetry back at campus." So we started a series that was going on until COVID. It may kick up again, but it's been dormant for, 3 years now, called Poetry Palooza is what it is. And we'd have a whole day at the center, and then we would, the poets would all go over to the South and, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, that all came out of that time that we were there.
Well, since we're putting a plug in for Macomb, third largest school in the state of Michigan, and at one time in the 80s and 90s, I know it was. And it's also, it was a community college, but it was designed totally different when it came out. And it was really very original in its approach. We were known for this community college, and it was supported by the state. So it was a different time period. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, and then you add the Vietnam War onto it.
Yeah.
And people like you start sprouting up.
Yeah. Right. Big time. Yeah.
So you go from Macomb to where?
Then we went away, you know, after 2 years at Macomb. The Ridgeway group, there were 5 of us, started, you know, went to different places. So me and my best friend, who was part of the collective, and he's a really good artist, actually. He's really blossoming now. Jeff Ensroth's his name. And his stuff is just, it was always great, but I mean, now that he's retired and focusing on it.
Is he Port Huron?
No, he's in St. Clair Shores.
St. Clair Shores.
Yeah.
Okay.
We grew up in fact, I'm married to his cousin. We've been together since we were like 14. So Jeff was part of that. And what am I telling you that for?
Because you're telling me where you went from Macomb.
Oh, that's
This
right.
is your life. Do I have to pull the book out for you?
Yeah, you know, that's
on,
another
ML.
thing. Is, you know, I don't read my own press.
Keep
so
you on track.
my chair just told me, I was, you know, up for a promotion, and she said, you know, you don't tell us enough about what you've done, and it's like, you're too modest. And I'm like, well, you know, I mean, it's not even about that. But anyway, so he and we went to Oakland. Now at that time, which you may remember, Oakland, there were no freeways. So Oakland was a good hour away. So and I was with the woman I'm married to now as a girlfriend. I didn't want to be too far. So Ann Arbor, the 2 choices were at that time, Oakland or Ann Arbor. I've never been a fan of Ann Arbor. I still am not. I go to concerts on occasion there, but I just didn't like Ann Arbor, and still don't. But so we went to Oakland. It was far enough. It was away.
And
so
it was part of Michigan State at the time. So
it started that way. Yeah, it started as actually the Harvard. They wanted it to be the Harvard of the Midwest. They hired all these Ivy League graduates, and they found out that they were not when I was there. This is before me. Some of them were still there when I got there. Many of them were still there, but from what I heard is after the first year or 2, all these working class kids were flunking out left and right, and their parents were like, "What's going on here?" Well, these guys were all Ivy League trained, and so what I heard is that they said, you know, you guys can stay if you can adapt to working class standards, more or less. And many of them did. And they were great professors too that stayed because they had all that behind them, but they were, you know, able to work with, you know, people like me and others and have an influence. But that's how I ended up at Oakland. One guy went to Michigan State and got his degree there. He's a photographer. He's very good. He was kind of the chronicler in photographs of the Ridgeway movement, which is all up online. I guess I should have thought about this before.
Where can people find it?
I think they can go to the Ridgeway Artists Collective on Facebook, I think, and on Instagram. And he's been posting all these old photos of us. I mean, back when I had hair and dark hair and, you know, dark beard and all that stuff. And so that happened. And then the other two guys, one was Carl O'Neill. He eventually, after Macomb, he stayed at Ridgeway. There was a house on Ridgeway Street in the Shores, and got that going. But then when he was ready, he went to Columbia College in Chicago.
Oh,
yeah,
Columbia.
Yeah, because he was a filmmaker, and Phil Barron sent him there.
Yep.
He said, "You're a filmmaker. You got to go there," because he was making movies back then. And so he went there. And then Larry, who wasn't an artist at all, Larry Wilson, he went to Lawrence Tech, and he ended up having a career in engineering at Wayne State. You know, he was like one of the engineers on campus and stuff like that. So, and we're all still alive. In fact, people should look that up, the Ridgeway Artists Collective, because Threefold Magazine, are you hip to that?
No.
It's online.
Okay.
It's a hipster online thing. But Kerry Lorne from BookBeat just did a huge, what did he call it? A dossier on the Ridgeway.
Oh, he's writing for it, Kerry is?
He writes for he's like an art critic for them.
Okay.
And he has always loved the idea of Ridgeway. And he's amazed that all five of us are still friends, because he said he doesn't know any friends from when he was young.
Why? Because Destroy All Monsters, they don't talk anymore?
No, I don't think so. Well, some of them are dead. So, yeah, no, he left that. And I always would say, this isn't probably fair or right, but I would say Ridgeway was the working man's version of the Destroy All Monsters movement that they were.
Ann Arbor.
Yeah, they were Ann Arbor. Yeah. So, but then I learned, you know, Kerry's a good friend. I learned that, you know, he ended up getting his degree at Wayne. I didn't know that until, you know, years later. So anyway, he did a nice job with it. I mean, I don't read my own press, but my wife read it all, and she said, "Yeah, that's really interesting." So maybe people should look that up, and that's tied to that Facebook page.
And what's the plug again for that?
It's the Ridgeway Artists Collective on Facebook and Instagram.
Well, this article though that Kerry did.
Oh, threefold.org.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's got poetry, art reviews, fiction. Chris Tisch is the poetry editor of it. They cover everything. And it comes out of that, is it called Trinoscope?
Oh, yeah.
Or Trinopathy? Yeah.
Trinosope.
Something like that. Yeah.
Peterson, I think is his
name.
name.
Joel.
Yeah,
he's
a musician.
Right. And he used to play with Farouk, who I played with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in the old days. He did some gigs with Joel and a drummer, I think, just the three of them.
Joel's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I like him.
I like him too. And Farouk liked him a lot.
So you ended up going from Oakland to Wayne State?
Well, I went to Oakland, graduated, and I kept my, I applied for graduate school there just because I didn't know what I was going to do. And I kept, that was open. They leave that open for about a year, and then before you have to reapply. So it got close to the end of it, and I was working for Sears, which all of us did as like in maintenance.
At Macomb Mall?
Yeah, exactly. Are you from the East Side?
East Side all the way. Come on, Al. I know who you are.
So, actually, all of us at one point worked at Sears. So, I forgot. There's so much stuff.
Oh yeah, well no, we're going from Oakland and how you ended up at Wayne.
Oh, wait. Okay. So I kept my option open for a year. It got close to the end of it, and maybe I got a note or letter saying, you know, the time is almost expired. I didn't like doing what I was doing, and thought, you know, I'm just going to go full time for a year because I knew I wanted to teach. And that was the way to do it, was to get a master's at that time. And it doesn't work that way anymore at universities. But I did, and put out applications. And in the very next fall, after I graduated in '80, that's August, they called me at Wayne and said, "Hey, we got a couple classes for you." And so I jumped at that. I didn't even know where Wayne State was, because I said to them, I said, "Well, that's great. Wow, I'm excited." Because I put about 50 apps out to places around Metro Detroit or within driving distance. And they called just before Labor Day. And I said, "Oh, that's, great. What should I do?" "Well, you can come down and get your books." This was like a Friday before Labor Day. Or, just come the day classes start and what. Now, I'd never taught before. I'd never been in a classroom. So I didn't do the TAing and stuff like that at Oakland. And so I went down. I said, "Where is it? Yeah, where is Wayne State?" And they laughed. I could hear them laughing. And they said, "Well, you know where I-94 is. You take that." "Yeah, I know where that is." "Well, you get off at Woodward, whatever." So when I got down there, though, this is weird, John, because when I got down there, I parked in front of or by the Historical Museum. Well, as it turns out, next to it, just north of it, was a hospital. It's now Mortuary Science, but it was the hospital I was born in. At the time, it was called Art Center, and it was a interestingly old, kind of Gothic-looking place. And it's sketched on my birth certificate. So I parked there, and I thought, wow, that looks familiar to me. What's going on here?
That wasn't Grace, was it? Hospital?
No, it was called Art Center, and then it became Michigan Osteopathic.
Okay, all right.
And then Wayne bought it, and it's now Mortuary.
And that's the one that's right behind
No, right next to it, going north on Woodward.
Oh, okay.
Right on the same side. Yeah. And it's an old-fashioned looking, it looks like an old mansion or something.
Okay. Yeah, just for reference.
But the doctor that delivered me owned it.
Okay.
And I never knew why it was Art Center. I thought maybe his first name was Art or something. Yeah. But then it dawned on me at that point, oh, it's in the Art Center. The lot museums here, the DIA's here. Oh, it makes sense. Huh. So when I got there and parked, I went down, I started walking up Kirby. When I looked over to the left, I saw the library. Well, when I was like 12 and 13, I used to take the bus from St. Clair Shores to Woodward and then walk Woodward for WABX free concerts on the lawn of the library. And oh, wow, I saw Third Power and Brownsville Station and what I thought was a drunken Ted Nugent. He says he's never done anything before.
Oh no, he would never do. Yeah, he wouldn't mislead people.
I know. He seemed
straight and narrow,
really drunk to me as a 12-year-old.
Yeah, well,
but anyway, so I saw that and I go, well, gosh, I've been there, and I kept walking and oh, that's Wayne State. So I really was by Wayne State, and I didn't know it because I never went to Cass. I just would go to that corner on Woodward and Kirby and watch the shows on the lawn there. So that was kind of interesting too. That all dawned on me on my first day down to pick my books up and stuff.
This is 1980.
1980, yeah.
And you've been there
ever since then, yeah.
So what department are you in?
English.
Okay.
Yeah, they called me when they offered it. They said, well, now teaching jobs were really hard to get. My professors at Oakland, they told me, like, listen, it's going to take 5 years or more before you get offered a full-time job. So, just be aware of that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I got those classes, but after that first year or 9 months or whatever, they offered me a full-time job. And then they hired about 10 people. And then the next year, and they said, this is only for 1 year. We need teachers. We kind of go through phases like that now too at Wayne. And we need teachers. Things are really happening. But nothing beyond that. Do not expect a regular job. So I said, okay, what did I have? They told me 5 years. It's only been 9 months. I'm in, you know. And then after that first year, they got rid of the 9 of the 10, and they kept me. And the rest is kind of history.
You're a survivor.
Yeah, I'm a survivor, man.
John Egger came in right about that time too, didn't he? Or just before that?
Might have been before that.
Yeah.
When I was there, as far as creative writers, Steve Tudor was there.
Oh, no, he's a painting department.
Oh, right. No, I know. But in English, you know, there was Tudor. We had some good writers, but Sam Astrakhan, who was a novelist, established novelist. Now, he only had a bachelor's degree, but he was an established novelist who lived in France half the year. So he only taught like in the fall. And he looked like Freud. He was a little short guy with a little goatee, and yeah, he looked like, everybody thought he looked like Freud. He was a fiction writer. Now we had Charlie Baxter and Ed Hirsch there too, but they weren't hired as creative writers. They were teaching. I think Charlie was American literature and Ed Hirsch was folklore, and they became sort of famous writers while they're at Wayne, and of course, at some point after that, they went on to their future careers. Ed is, and they're still good friends, but Ed is, heads up the Guggenheim.
The Fellowship?
Yeah, in New York. He's
good guy to know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't ever expect anything like that to benefit me. But anyway,
can't win unless you apply it.
Yeah, I know. I haven't.
Now you've kind of delved into politics a little bit, or
a lot. Yeah. Well, I started in 1965 at just before Christmas. A kid who lived a couple of doors away was killed in Vietnam. This is another weird story. He graduated from Lakeshore where I went, and his father was an old school Marine, so he joined the Marines right away. And by early December, he was dead. And he was killed in what I've later learned was one of the first major battles in Vietnam.
Not Kite Monroe.
No. Why was he killed in Vietnam?
He was the first guy killed in Vietnam.
Oh,
from St. Clair Shores.
Oh,
that's why they named that park after
him.
Right on Masonic.
Right. No, I know. I never knew the story behind.
He went to Lakeshore, probably.
He probably did. Yeah. I know Kite Monroe. I don't know Kite Monroe, but I know the park. Yeah. So this kid gets killed there, and I didn't really understand it because what was I, like 11 or something like that? But it was weird. The whole neighborhood, it was, everybody collected money for the family. I remember that stuff. But that really, Vietnam, what is that? How does this kid go from down the street to dying in Vietnam, like within the fall semester, let's say, because he, signed up in the summer and got shipped. It turned out that was a big battle, and many years later, and that's kind of what brought me into understanding and wanting to understand Vietnam. And then once I did, it led to activism. And
2 + 2 is on my mind.
That's right, exactly. What a great song!
It's the best.
It is it's a great song.
He was a big deal.
Yeah, no,
rightfully so.
Yeah, no, yeah. Have you had him on your show here?
I would love to get him on the show. Give him a call. Come on, you guys are buddies.
Well, I used to see him all the time at the Crow's Nest, which was like are you from the Shores too, originally? Yeah. So did you, but you're younger than me.
Lakeshore with you.
But not the same time.
What year did you graduate?
71.
Yeah, my brother graduated with you.
Oh, really?
He's on the basketball team. You don't
that like last name sounds familiar.
What street did you grow up on?
Lincoln.
Okay, we're on Socia.
Oh, you were,
Jefferson. So we were only 2 blocks from Lakeshore.
Yeah, no, I know where you were. Yeah, I know where you were. And Vondi Campbell lived, I think, on Euclid.
Yeah.
What year did you graduate?
Oh, 81.
Oh, okay.
And I moved to Mount Clemens. I got out of there.
Oh, okay. So you became a Mount Clemens bather,
Well,
or whatever they're
no,
called.
Clinton Township, the higher end of Mount Clemens, Chippewa Valley.
Oh, okay.
I moved there in high school.
Oh,
So
all right.
I didn't get to experience the Shorians. I went back to see some friends one time, and nobody even noticed that I wasn't in the school, and I sat through a class. And
Wow.
this is out of control.
Wow, wow. So your brother went on to become a famous basketball player?
No, but he did play all through there, and I think he played for Macomb too.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Wow, what a small world.
It is really small.
It is.
It's getting smaller.
I
right
ride
now.
my bike by Socia all the time. So, in fact, I took a picture of the sign, which is one of my backdrops when I'm zooming, because the wife of one of the Ridgeway guys grew up on Socia.
Who's that?
Her name, now I'm going to blank on it, but Janet DeGrasse.
It's my next door neighbor.
Was it really? Wow.
He's married to her now?
He's married to her now. They were friends in high school, and then they both got
He's
married.
married to Janet.
Yeah.
She is my next door neighbor.
Really?
I grew up right next door, like the next house over.
We should have had this discussion. I could have
Yeah.
told him last night.
Yeah, no. And
So I have a picture of, I just took a picture on my bike one time because I knew she grew up on Socia. And I stopped riding and just took a selfie with Socia in the background.
Oh, that is some good entertainment.
Yes.
And who's she married to?
Larry Wilson.
Okay. My dad knows all this.
Oh, okay.
He's a fan of yours too.
Really?
Yeah.
What's his name?
It's Ed Sobe, and he is a big fan of yours, which I was surprised he said that.
Wow.
Not that I don't like you.
Does he still live in the short? Or he's probably passed
he's
away?
98.
Wow.
And he lives over off Hall Road.
Oh, wow.
But he's gonna like this.
Oh, that's great.
Not to get off track.
That's fabulous.
But
But that is a small world.
Your politics, you ran
So
for
I got
office recently, right?
Well, no, I did then. What happened is in I started at Macomb at 71. I think around 70, it had to be 72. These guys came in from, the student council or whatever. And they were very political, involved with the Democratic Party, which of course at that time I was anti any establishment thing. But they came in and gave everybody they asked if they could give a survey out to the class, and the teacher said, yeah. And they put, who would you want for president? Who's your first choice? And I put something like Abby Hoffman. And they said, your second choice, Jerry Rubin, and some other crap. And then I got a call from them, and they said, well, we want you to run for office, because that was the first year 18-year-olds could vote or run for office. And I thought, what? Okay, maybe I'll work from the inside. That was my thought. I'm not having a lot of success on the outside, but maybe if I get in. So I did run for office as a precinct delegate. They were looking for a bunch of students to do that. And I did do that for a couple of years and was heavily involved in the McGovern campaign, which is what they were leading up to. And then after him, the Bonnier campaign, which got him into office too. And the guy who was Bonnier's ended up his main guy, Ed Bruley. When Clinton won, I told my kids, they were little, but I said, if he wins, we're going to the inauguration. I mean, that was like a big news story. C&G papers went with us, the Macomb Daily, and Ed got us into all kinds of, like a breakfast on the Capitol and tickets to the event and to the inauguration. And it was quite an experience for the kids too. I mean, they were old enough to know, but they were in elementary school at the time. But anyway, so that's another connection. Is it turns out Ed Bruley, who recruited me, ended up running and becoming a commissioner for Macomb County, and now he's retired. But anyway, that's another small world.
So ML, unfortunately, we've run out of time. But how can people find more about you and your poetry? Okay.
They can just go to my website, which is, mlliebler.com, MLLIEB as in boy, LER.com. And I try to keep it updated with the gigs I'm doing, although I need to do that immediately after this because this is going to go nationwide.
Absolutely.
Everyone's going to be looking.
Sorry.
At it. Yeah, that happens. You know, it happens. Yeah, it's kind of like my wife says, "Where are you going?" Because I don't get up early.
Yeah, and you're not allowed in Oakland County either.
Yeah, I could hardly find it. But I was worried that the freeway would be closed. But, you know, I rehearse with I started this, I wrote a story called Beatles Forever. I don't know if you've ever seen it. You should come.
We got to put a plug into this.
Okay, so we're going to do it on June 17th up in, or at the St. Clair, not Shores, but St. Clair District Library. And then we're going to do it in Harrison Township. We've done it for 10 years. It was supposed to be 1 year. And what it is, I wrote a story about growing up in St. Clair Shores with the Beatles, and we plug about 28 songs into it. And then a guy did a big film collage behind us while that goes with the story. And as I say, it's a pretty funny story, and it's with a little sadness too. So I've been doing for a long time, but the drummer of the group, our Ringo, lives on Long Lake Road where we rehearse a lot, down closer to where Long Lake is it? Or is that there's a big lake I know across the street from
There's
us.
a road.
Yeah.
This is full circle. It brought you to Oakland County.
I know.
And people can find out about your Beetle Fest on your
At my website. Yeah. Yeah.
ML, thanks for coming on the
Hey,
show.
thank you, John. This is great. Thank you. What a small world.
Oh, man.